All right. So today we're going to be talking about kind of how do you stay in your creative lane, or how do you, I guess, shift careers? Because one of the interesting things that I think keeps coming up in life, I keep having these wonderful conversations with people who have incredible life experience and have just their stories, their knowledge, and kind of the wisdom that has been passed on. A lot of it kind of has to do with that you live so many different career paths in your life, if you will. And a lot of people refer to them as chapters, but truly, like even in the career sense, if you're going after a creative career or business career, or just anything that's your pursuit, you'll go through phases of that. You may shift completely, you may leave it. And I think one of the interesting things that I've been kind of challenged with, I wouldn't quite say like recently, but over the course of my career numerous times, has been, what do I do with my creativity? So I started as a filmmaker and started as, kind of designing websites on the side to kind of make kind of my films stand out a little bit more so I could get more business. And I guess when I started with that approach, I was like, I'm a filmmaker and then I'm adding design. And then suddenly I started designing and then I added film. And then suddenly I was somewhere in the middle. And I think whatever career you end up choosing, you kind of start to deviate a little bit, and it kind of becomes this bigger web. And I guess you reach certain points of your career where you kind of reach a fork in the road where you feel like you got to choose one or the other, or maybe that one's just completely changing. So just as an example, the design world. I remember a time in design where, like, I remember my very first website, and I wouldn't even call myself that old in the internet age, if you will, but like my very first website was a coded HTML site that was showing a Formula One car going across the top. And it's like that level of design of hand coding HTML to put in an H1 header and all that kind of stuff, that was very manual work. And I remember just kind of typing it through. It was almost like learning how to write or do cursive. You're just kind of going through the motions, but once you kind of get it, you understand it, you get the structure and kind of the architecture of everything, which I'm going to get to in another episode on kind of like the architecture of, how we think about problems and stuff. But when it came to actually like building the website, the fun part was like the creativity. It was like, can you make something happen on the screen that, maybe I didn't know how to do yet or didn't even know was possible? And it was like this kind of way to explore ideas. And I think like as technology has advanced now, you get a lot of that, what you see is what you get, as they call in design, where it's kind of drag and drop, that Squarespace, that, kind of, you're taking Wix, you're taking blocks, and you're basically assembling a page, and you're saying, you built a website. And that was the next step after the code part, was like, look, you don't need to do these blocks over and over again. We'll take care of that for you. You just kind of add what you want in there. And now we're getting to a point where you kind of say what you want, and an AI will design the entire thing for you. And truly, it's incredible. I've been testing it a lot, and the design capabilities are incredible. And for a moment there, I sat there and I was kind of like, what am I going to do? Like it changes almost what you do disappears overnight in a way. And I sat with that for a little bit and I was kind of like, oh, now what? You got to completely shift careers, do something else. What do I do? And, the funny thing is that in that moment, you kind of think about, well, is this just another one of those shifting? Like now I don't have to necessarily make the blocks. Now I can just imagine what I want to create. And suddenly it can be made. And I don't mean this as a case for making a case for AI design or anything. I'm just saying that when a functional step in technology steps things out where the process is almost completely different, I think you almost kind of get to a fork in the road, whatever career you're in, that kind of says, do I still want to be doing this if it is completely different? Or is the things that make me enjoy it at the core still present? And that's going to be the interesting part. So in my career, like you kind of live in this world where you're, I guess, trying to think about where the world's going to be. How do you communicate the cool things that you see right in front of you? And then how do you communicate it in a way that will be memorable? And that's essentially the core of what I do, in everything that I do. Now, when you start to look at how that fits into, my creativity and my process and how I do what I do, that's where it gets really interesting. Like, it depends on what your focus is. And hold on. It was a swimming day. So it depends on what your focus is. So on my side, I really enjoy coming up with the concepts, the kind of the human creativity part. Like, I've never been that great at drawing. Like, I always carry a pen and I write everything on paper, but I am not really an artist. And so digital tools kind of gave me the ability to use that as a new canvas, which I thought was really, really cool. Now, I really like that part, and the exploration phase and the figuring out what's possible, that's exciting to me. The actual building of it, that part isn't as exciting for me. And so when I look at a lot of things that change throughout a career, it's like, what is it giving more of or less of? And so if whatever I'm doing or whatever process or whatever innovation that kind of allows me to have more of what I enjoy, then that's wonderful. Then let's keep going with that. If it takes away from that and suddenly it's kind of a drag and it makes it worse, well, then you can look at other things. And I think that's the scary part, right? Like, jumping off the cliff, so to speak, and like going after something different, out of the comfort zone, maybe even completely different than what you've been doing. And that can be really scary. And I've had a few different careers over the years. Like, I'd say a common thread has always been kind of creativity at the heart of it, but I haven't always been designing or haven't always been holding a camera and doing stuff. And so when you really start to kind of, I guess, look at where you want your career to go, it's where do you want your time to be spent and what ideas and things are you wanting to solve? And so when you're looking to kind of stay in your creative lane, like right now, I think it's very exciting to be able to jump over to anything. Like I remember when, this was probably like 2013, 2014, entrepreneurship just as a concept was becoming a lot more accessible. I mean, even for me, like from a media standpoint, it became more accessible. Like when I first got a camera, cameras were so much more expensive 5 years before I bought my first camera. And so it allowed me to enter the market and kind of use my creativity in the best way that I could and kind of make a splash and create something. Like that's why it gave me an opportunity to do that. And so I was very lucky in the timing of that. And then that coincided with this time of entrepreneurship kind of being a huge focus. Like it was saying, like, you can start a business, you can kind of shift it, you can do anything now in the internet age and digital commerce and build your own companies. And I really, really liked that concept. I was like, that's really cool to truly just like build what you want. Like the hard work for me wasn't really a thing. The hours, the dedication, the discipline, like those are all things that kind of come with entrepreneurship. Or even if you work remotely, either one. But as you start to kind of work through your career, I kind of found that what I really, really enjoyed was the pure part of seeing something being built. Like to me, that was really, really exciting. And so as I went through my career and I continued to build on kind of like my creative components. So like I wanted to build out, I think some of the best creatives that I've ever seen, they're the people that they read books, they will draw things, they will take in history, they'll take in art, they'll be around business, they'll be out on the water doing sports, they'll be doing science, they'll be just, it's this constant curiosity and it builds into this picture of what you see in the world and how you kind of see the world. And then you take your skill sets, so like being able to build a website, being able to build a brand, being able to shoot a film, and those are your skill sets that plug into that. And so when you think about making things a little bit more accessible, so now the skill sets are becoming a little bit more accessible. That's call it the AI design. That's effectively a camera being cheaper. Like it allowed me to build my creative career off of it. So that's kind of what's happening with AI and technology and innovation in a lot of spaces. It's just the skill side is getting filled in really quickly. But that's the one side. The other side is the experience. That's the taking in the world. That's your perspective. Like that's the secret sauce that makes everything unique. It was kind of talked about a lot when entrepreneurship was first starting at that time, that basically it was a little bit, people were a little bit secretive over ideas, which I thought was quite silly. Just because when you're really protective over ideas, it takes a lot of hard work to actually build that. And so not sharing it doesn't necessarily mean that thing's going to be built. Now, the other theory though, and which I'm more on board with, is the theory that the idea is going to get made no matter what. Who's going to make it is the question. So like a lot of things would be, oh, well, that person had the same idea. What? Like people will start a business and they'll think it's truly original and they'll realize there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the same thing, sometimes even in the same town. And when you notice that, you go, and then you start thinking about it, you're like, well, maybe that idea was inevitable. And so it's not so much about the skill set, it's about the perspective and how you see the world that gives it the flavor on the idea that was going to probably be created anyway. And so my lesson in this is to explore as much of everything. Like stay curious on that, because in your creative path or your career path or anything, like there could be something that sparks an interest that you didn't even know existed. So not only are you learning about something that you maybe didn't know about, or maybe you're learning about a historical aspect of something that looks pretty similar to what's happening, today. And all of a sudden you could find yourself in a completely different career and go, oh, I remember years ago when I used to do blankety blank. You always have that conversation with people where they went, oh, I had a career doing this, and then I went to this, and I went to that. And I remember having those conversations and kind of going, how do people get in those positions? Like, how do they start? Like, how do they make that decision to like, oh, then I'm going to hop over here? Like, I've always kind of wondered that, because I've meandered a little bit, but generally kind of going in the same direction. And I think the answer is, yeah, a little bit of serendipity meets, curiosity and exploration, is like people just kind of exploring concepts and ideas and learning and meeting new people and just living life. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in a completely different place. And I think that's part of the cool part about kind of staying present in every moment, is take inventory every once in a while and see how you're enjoying where you're at, like where you're at in life overall. This could be personal, this could be health, it could be food, it could be business, like it could be literally anything. Like just check in with yourself and take inventory, because I think some of the career changes that I've made in my life have not been this sudden aha moment, and they also haven't been anything that necessarily is all pre-calculated. It's just something that it's an ever-changing process, and as you can kind of just go with the flow and know that there's a certain fluidity to all this, it kind of makes it okay on the days where you're maybe not enjoying whatever you're doing, whether that be personally or professionally. It kind of puts a bigger perspective around why you're doing what you're doing. And if you truly don't like it, like start shifting it. But as you start shifting it, know that it's not going to be, immediate. This could be stair steps. It's just one foot in front of the other consistently, and then suddenly everything kind of changes. And so I think when it comes to career paths, I believe that doing anything at least for 3 years is valuable, like anything, because I think they say a lot in entrepreneurship that if you reach the 3-year mark, like, good job, you're doing awesome. And I think in a lot of ways that is correct, because the first year, especially when you start anything, like, and this could be an experienced entrepreneur, like there's still a first year, second year, and a third year. The first year is just learning. You're just understanding everything. You're getting your bearings. You're feeling out where everything is, and you're trying to just get like, okay, now I'm clear. Now that I'm in it. Because let's say you came up with a business plan and you jump in the deep end and you're like, all right, I'm gonna jump in. You go in. You're still day one. You kind of look around and you're like, oh, I got a lot to figure out. Okay, now what systems needs to be set up? Who needs to talk to who? What process do I need? Is there any legals? Like, you start going through those checklists, and whether you've done some of those checklists before or not, I would probably guess that some of those are new. And so that first year, you're just learning. Second year, you're iterating, you're improving, you're getting there. And then third year, it's like, all right, confidence. And when you stay with something for at least 3 years, that's a really good start. Then you take inventory also and kind of figure out, hey, do I like this after 3 years? And what would I change? Do I want to shift it? Does it have potential to shift? Can I do something else? Like whether that be personal or professional. If you go to like the 5-10 years, like, yeah. And then you suddenly get to the 20s and the 30 years of doing something. And then that's the goal. Like I probably the first 3-5 years of my career, I was about the rapid acceleration and the skill set and the improvement and get really good at it and get in the reps. And of course I'm much better now than I was then. But at the time I was like, if I speed up this process, I can get to the top faster and I'll get there. And what was really funny about it is I would probably say about 10 years in to doing all of this is when it really clicked that I didn't know really anything. And now it became a curiosity, a pursuit of, I started asking why into everything. Like, why is type the way that it is? Why is something shaped the way that it is? Why does this layout work, but that layout doesn't? And why did that work in the 60s, but not that in the 70s? And you start to explore more, and then you realize, oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. And then that's where that fuel kind of keeps going. And when you meet somebody who's done something for 50 years, it's incredible. Like their sense of knowledge, their wisdom, their calmness. It's really interesting. Like I haven't met anybody who's done something for 50 years and who hasn't been a remarkably just calm person. They may have energy, like I wouldn't say they're all just, very calm, but generally in whatever they're doing, they're just there's a confidence and there's a calmness, there's a smoothness, like there's a connection to it. And that comes through reps and doing it and practicing it and doing it for 50 years, 30, 40, 50 years. And so the hardest part is that first on-ramp. Like that's where the real hard work is, like in terms of the adjustment period. Once you kind of settle in, then the hard part is the discipline. It's the continuing to explore it. It's the once you reach, one dead end, you got to go backwards and then go down another hallway. Like that exploration phase over that 30, 40, 50 years. Like that's where the really, really hard stuff goes. But in figuring out if it's your pursuit or not, I mean, don't just spend 6 months or 2 weeks or, you gotta get in there and try something, because most things that are either new and or different are going to be difficult in the beginning. And if it's easy, you may have some familiarity with components of it before, but generally it's pretty new. And so take your time learning things. I think people are not patient enough these days to I don't know, stick with something long enough to figure out if you like it or not. And I'll say I'm 100% guilty of that. Like I was the person who jumped over from one thing to the next and still do, honestly, like swimming and rowing and sailing and like all the different things that I like to dabble in and do. I do them for many years, but I did flip-flop around for a little bit, and you may find periods of time in life where you are kind of jumping around to a couple different things. And that may be an exploratory period where you commit to trying something new every 2 months, 3 months, whatever, for a period of time. So it could be an extended learning time, but either way, 1 to 3 years, commit to something, whatever it is, anything, and just chip away at it. Don't go after like the whole day one and go hard out of the gates move. Like nobody that sprints in a marathon ever wins by sprinting out of the gate. They just keep going. So set a pace to it, of course, but yeah, I'd say that's my advice on a creative career path. It's one of those things that I'm still figuring out. I think you never stop figuring it out. And I'm just sharing where I'm at because I've noticed that time in something allows you to get to a level where you get to open a few more doors that you're not used to opening. And sometimes it sparks some curiosity to go deeper and become an expert on something that you didn't think you were going to necessarily be an expert at, or even trying to learn more about. So that would be my advice. And until next time.